some nice steel. How about telling me who gave them to you?
Yo mama.
When it comes to long-standing franchises, odds are you're going to have a certain iteration of the series you prefer over the others. Whether that's due to simple nostalgia, it doing different things with the established lore, or some other third thing, odds are there's a version of the series that you consider to be your version, so to speak. And I don't think it'll surprise you to hear that the 2003 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are my Ninja Turtles. Sure, I grew up with things like the movies and the 80s cartoon, but the 2003 series was what I was exposed to first, and nostalgia aside, the serious but lighthearted tone combined with the long-term story arcs caught me in a way the others didn't. I still like other versions of the Turtles, obviously, but when I think about my preferred versions of the characters, odds are I'm going to be thinking about these guys. So needless to say, when Super 7 announced they were expanding their TMNT Ultimates line to include the 2003 cast, I was incredibly excited. It's been a while since these versions have gotten merchandise of any kind, as far as I'm aware, but I guess as the 2000s are becoming the new nostalgia for companies to milk, we may be seeing them more often now. That all being said, I've never touched a product from Super 7 until now. And while I've never thought any of their stuff was bad, I did have a feeling of them coming across as being underwhelming for what they cost. Particularly in the elbows and knees, the articulation was rather lacking for something that costs as much as it does. But of course, there's a difference between seeing a figure and actually handling it, so let's not waste any more time and get right into it, shall we? Okay, so you know how people always say that Good Smile figures have some of the best sculpting around? How they look so screen accurate, it's like they jumped right off the screen and into plastic form? That's basically how I feel about the Turtles here. In terms of matching the show designs, this is basically as close as you can get. The colors are also pretty on point, and surprisingly, I have no problem with the exposed hip joints. Usually exposed joints like this can easily be an eyesore. Early Amazing Yamaguchi figures can be a good example of this, but here it honestly doesn't look too bad. It's surprisingly natural and will definitely help with the articulation, but we'll get to that in a minute. The only problems I have here are in regards to QC. For the most part, this is just minor paint scuffs, nothing too bad. But then there's this molding issue on Donnie's back thigh. That's pretty bad. Still, outside of those QC issues, these guys overall look fantastic. And that can also be said for their weapons. Not too much to say here, they all look great, can easily be stored on the Turtles no problem. Donnie's bow staff is also a bit looser than I'd like, but it should get the job done. And I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure if they meant to have Raph and Mikey's Sai and nunchucks be storable like this, but it works and is accurate to how it was in the show, so hey, I'm not complaining. Mikey also gets some spinning effect parts, which is a much welcomed addition. Makes it a lot easier to get him into poses. Speaking of, obviously most of us are going to want to get these guys into action poses, so how does the articulation fare? Well, honestly, I was surprisingly impressed. Super 7 did mention in solicitations that they were introducing a new articulation scheme with these figures, but really what we have here is just an upgrade to what was already there. This isn't a bad thing though, as now the elbows and knees are double jointed, alongside the neck now being ball jointed as opposed to just the head having one. We've seen before how that can be an issue, so it's nice to see them make this improvement here. Everything else has been left the same, and while I definitely think they could have added butterfly joints, I can also understand why they haven't, given the Turtles' designs, in particular the shells, may have made this an issue. In spite of that, the articulation still works well, allowing for a good amount of poseability. In particular, those exposed hips allow for a perfect split, great for things like flying kicks, and the hidden lower torso joint allows for some nice crunch and a waist swivel without sacrificing the sculpt. So far, everything seems to be going great for the Turtles. Not only do they look amazing, their poseability, while still having room for improvement, is still really good. In these regards, I'd say they could be considered worth their price. But to do that would be to ignore the one thing I haven't really talked about yet. The accessory count is downright anemic for the price point. For comparison's sake, let's look at the accessories for some figures from the Figma, SH Figuarts, and Mafex lines. These figures are either more expensive or cheaper than Super 7's Turtles, but all come with a plethora of different hands and heads for you to use. Meanwhile, all you get with the turtles are an extra head, 2 sets of hands, and a shell cell that, as far as I can tell, they can't even hold. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, and if so, feel free to tell me in the comments, but I couldn't get them to hold these at all. What is the point of giving us an accessory they can't even do anything with? Now, to be fair, they did come out with a set of additional heads, so that's cool. Except for the fact that they're exclusive to Super 7's shop and were only available for a limited time. You know, I get the nature of exclusives like this, but maybe don't do it when they barely come with much to begin with. Although I suppose it's not as bad as what they did with Mothra and Batra. Locking their beam attacks behind a limited time store exclusive deal is bullshit, and you know it's Super 7. This whole thing kind of feels like a reversal of what happened with the Maximum Spider-Man. That figure came with a lot of accessories, but the figure didn't feel up to snuff with what was expected at the price point. Whereas these guys, as figures, for the most part feel worth the price, but the lack of accessories knocks them down a peg. It sucks because I really want to love these guys, but I can't ignore an issue like this, so ultimately I just end up liking them. Which isn't bad, mind you, but man, I really do want to love them. I really, really do. Now, I was fully expecting these guys to not scale well with the rest of my stuff, since this is a 7-inch line, but at about 14 centimeters tall, the turtles actually fit in pretty well. Granted, they're still rather large, and the closer to true 1/12 scale you get, the more obvious that becomes, but even so, if you're someone who primarily collects 6-inch figures, I think you can fudge these guys in. Though I'm not sure how well that will work with later figures like Casey or Shredder. We're just gonna have to wait and see on that one. While the lack of accessories is a real knock on the final product, I still think that Super 7 did a very good job on the 2003 Turtles here. If you're a big fan of the 2003 series, I'd highly recommend picking this up. But if you're just a casual fan of the Ninja Turtles, or just don't have much of a connection to the 2003 series, I'd still recommend it, but try to go for discounts if you can. These guys are pretty pricey, and with the lacking accessories, I'm not sure anyone but those who are big fans of the series can justify paying that much. Of course, I am a big fan, so you can probably guess where my money's going in the future. And knowing just how deep Super 7 has gone with their 80s Ninja Turtle stuff, I have to wonder how far they'll go here. I mean, could we see a potential battle shell in the future? That would be cool, but where in the world would I even put it? I've got an issue with space already, and I'll figure that all out later, especially since we're at the end of the video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Later.